All right, I'm rolling now in 3, 2, 1. Well, welcome back to Millennial Matters Talk Show, where we deal with topics that matter to all millennials here in Mississippi. And I like to say this is the virtual edition because we cannot see each other physically. So thank you so much, Dr. Quinn, for joining us again.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So today we're talking about children going back to school. A lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are confused. They don't know which way to go.
Right.
You know, my favorite line is to say, let's talk about it, because that's what we need to do. We need to talk about it.
Most definitely. I mean, the deal is right now, COVID-19. Initially, people were on the fence. I mean, is this serious? Is it a big deal? But look, the bottom line is we've been in this thing since March, and we're all the way in July now, and people are starting to understand this is nothing to play with, and it's not getting any better. Actually, it's getting worse. But the numbers are continuing to grow. People are losing their lives. And I'm going to tell you, for the millennials, a lot of them are first-time parents, you know, and there's nothing more important than their children. You know what I mean? And now they have to make a decision. Am I going to continue to have my child at home doing the distance learning with the virtual, with the computers, or am I going to send them back to school? And I actually put a post on Facebook a few days ago on my Facebook page, that's Dr. Timothy Quinn, talking about, you know, the pros and cons. And I got beat up pretty bad. People are very intense about this. And it's something that I'm so happy we can continue to talk about.
And so, as we were saying, the time is drawing near for students to go back to school. What does this look like? Again, people are afraid. They're scared to send their children to school. Some of the children are afraid. Some of them are eager to get back to school, and some of them are like, I'm not so sure about this because there's just too much going on. You know, so let's talk about those dynamics. What does that look like?
Well, here's the deal. Dr. Green, who's the superintendent for Jackson Public Schools, he came out a few days ago and he announced that schools will be reopening. Now, there are different options. That's good though. They're options, meaning you can either send your child to school. If they're grade school all the way up to like high school, they can go in the actual school in person. But if they choose to stay at home and do virtual learning, they can do that as well. And he's going to give, well, not him, but the district is going to supply every child with a computer. So if they are at home, they have that option and they have the equipment so that they can do the virtual learning effectively. Now, some of the other schools, they have different options. Now, as far as JPS, note the high school, they're going to do something called hybrid for JPS. Up until high school, everybody can go or they can go home. But for high school, which is the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, I want to say the 9th grade as well, I'm not sure. But they do a hybrid where I think the 9th and 10th grade go on Mondays and Wednesdays, and the 11th and 12th grade go on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the days they're not in school, they'll be at home doing the computers. So that way they cut it in half and there's more of an opportunity for social distancing. But also they get that hands-on. But if they want to stay at home for all 5 days, they can stay home for all 5 days. And note they do Friday, they do that virtual as well. But the take home is they have the option. Now, let me just hit on this. I did an interview earlier today and they asked me, they said, well, what if someone in the home is elderly, or maybe they have chronic medical conditions, meaning these people have a high probability of having what's called a compromised immune system. They're vulnerable. Now, I noted that kids do tend to fare better if they contract COVID-19 according to the research, meaning if a kid gets it, there's less of a chance they're going to lose their life. And in the state of Mississippi, as to date, no child has lost their life from a COVID-19 infection. So what that's telling us is if the kids get it, they can get sick, but they have a better chance of not having really bad consequences. But they can also act as carriers. So if you have someone in your home that's vulnerable, meaning they have a weakened immune system, such as an elderly or somebody with lupus, heart disease, lung disease, then that family may decide, I don't want my child to go to school. Let's do the virtual learning. And it will be understood. Or maybe even the child has a chronic medical condition like asthma, lupus, diabetes. They may choose to do it at home, and it's understandable. But what I want each family to know is it has to be an independent, individual decision based on your family's scenario. And that's really good that they have that choice.
I was just going to say, and that's, I guess that's the best part in all things in life, is that you have options and choices. And so what does this look like for students that will be going back to school? How can they keep themselves safe? Because it goes beyond just wearing face masks.
Right. I'm glad you asked that. Now, the students that will be going to school, there are different protocols that the education system is implementing. For instance, kids will go to one classroom and stay there all day long.
That'd be fun. Huh?
Well, it'd be fun. But I remember when I was in junior high school and we started developing sweat glands. And some of the students doing too much playing. So hopefully you won't be sitting behind somebody that's not wearing a deodorant. I gotta laugh a little bit right now. That was somebody asked that. What if the person in front of me, you know how the junior high, you remember back in those days. but they'll stay in the same classroom the entire day. And when they change classes, the teachers will change rooms. And what that does is it cuts down on children in the hallway, passing each other and potentially infecting one another. It cuts down and they stay there. They eat the lunch in the classroom. There's no assembly, so there's no pep rally. Everything is in the class. And when they leave, they leave, and they'll have no visitors in the school. So people can't come into the school, like maybe delivery people or parents. And they're just trying to cut down the exposure of children as much as possible to keep them safe as possible.
And my last question before we get out today, what advice do you have to parents that are scared, they're nervous, they're confused, they don't know which way to go? They don't know if I need to send my child to school or if I need to let my child stay home. From a medical standpoint, what advice would you give?
What I advise the parents is look at it for your individual circumstances. Don't worry about the opinions of other people. Do what's best for you. I want to also note some parents might have children with special needs. Maybe that child might not be able to learn the instruction on a computer. That's something to consider. Or maybe you have a child that's having problems, disciplining themselves to do the computer. Those are things to consider. Is your child able to comprehend the information on the computer? Then also, like we talked about earlier, you want to look at the house. Who's in the home? Who are the people who, when the child comes home, are going to be exposed to that child? If you have elderly, say grandmama or great grandmother lives there, somebody lives there with chronic medical conditions like lung disease, heart disease, kidney disease. You need to consider all that when you make your decision, because you got to look at not just the child, but the overall family. But at the end of the day, you have to decide what you decide, and don't let anyone influence your decision, because it's important that you understand that you're doing what's best for you and your family.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Quinn, for another successful segment on here on the Millennial Matters Talk Show, AKA the virtual edition. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right.